Hello and welcome to this video. Today we're going to be covering recording a podcast. In this video we're going to cover what you need to create a podcast, what a podcast is, the environment for podcasting, and more importantly, how to record a podcast. We're not going to cover more of the professional side or hobby side related things of podcasting today. I'm just going to try and break it down so it's a little bit more simple for those who are creating something for an assignment and perhaps have never done this before. I do have a more fleshed out written guide that you can access for podcasting for those who are looking for something a little bit more detailed that goes into more depth about the different types of equipment, how to record different stuff and things like that. This video is a much more simpler formatted just for those for either getting started or to record for your assignment. First things first, what is a podcast? Well, a podcast is a piece of edited content which can be completed in a radio program. This could be an extract or a highlight from a program, or it can be completely unique content that is tailored around a particular theme. Now, we've seen multiple different podcasts pop up. You can have full audio, which, as mentioned, can be in the radio format, but we've seen with the advent of things like Spotify and other platforms, even YouTube, podcasting has evolved and we've seen a lot more people be given access to create content and upload that to their particular platform of choice. Typically, a podcast is just a piece that is edited, that is mostly audio or audio driven first to talk about a topic, to sort of have that discussion then. Now, it can be community based, it can be one-sided, it's completely up to you how you want to tailor that content. For those who are creating a podcast as an assignment, I'm not going to consider this as a series of podcasts. Typically, when you're looking at social media, things like Spotify, they're in a playlist or maybe there's a particular channel that holds a group of podcasting. We're just going to look at just creating an individual podcast today. Typically, podcasts are primarily considered audio since the early 2010s. However, we've seen more and more video setups being released as podcasts. We see this all the time on things like YouTube. And why the content might be the same for different platforms is a good place to note that you don't need to do video for podcasting. If you're doing this for an assignment, my advice is to read your assignment brief to understand what is being asked from you. Typically, a podcast in academic sense will be that audio edited piece. A video would be a visual piece with audio included. If the requirements states that it's only audio or is asking for an MP3 file, don't worry about the video aspect. For those who are doing this as a hobby or even at a professional level, consider using video. It can be a good way to put face to a brand. It's also a good way just to expand how users interact with your media as well. Okay, you might have a large audience on Spotify and you might want to build something a little bit more on YouTube. So having that video content on YouTube can help bring brand appeal over there, while the audio stuff stays over on a platform like Spotify. Regardless of the format you choose, it's really important to note that unlike a dedicated video, show, or film, you need to make sure that you're putting audio first when you're creating a podcast. That means if you are showing something visual or you're doing something visually, pretend your audience can't see you. So sometimes that might be not doing a visual thing or describing what you're doing or showcasing so an audience can understand what's happening in the background. Remember, podcasts are to be listened to anywhere at any time, so we don't want to be pulling people's attention to a screen to look at an item. This is a very audio first medium. So first things first, you need to work out what you want to say. Have a clear structure for the format that you want to deliver. Very similar to your assignments, this will be an introduction. You'll then go into the subject area, breaking down the different topics, typically ending in a conclusion, okay? Think of it as your assignment, it's just you talking through it instead. One thing that is different than your assignment is the scripting, okay? Now this is going to change person to person. Some people will tell you to heavily script something, so you know exactly what you're saying, you can keep on topic. For some people, that doesn't work. For me, what I have is a few bullet points, and I have a few notes that are in bullet point form for areas that I want to talk about. Now, this lets me think about things, it lets me free flow a little bit. It doesn't make me sound as robotic if I was just scripting everything, but that's what works for me. Some people go into it with literally nothing and they go off the fly. Personally, I would advise going against that, just because, you do tend to ramble on a little bit if you've not got anything prepared, and you might forget important things you need to talk about. So work out how much or how little you want to script. See which one works for you. Like I said, full scripting can be really good if you want to make sure you hit all of the points you need to talk about. However, you can sound a little bit robotic. So find that nice sweet spot. Then make sure you're keeping it concise. Especially for podcasting, you need to make sure you've got the audience's attention. You don't want to ramble on, and I'm sure you don't do that in your assignment, and we're not going to change it for your podcast either. Here's some things that you can start thinking about. You can think about, highlighting key activities that you might have done for your project. You can demonstrate progress, showcase achievements. All of these things are great talking points. And again, these will all change depending on your assignment, depending on what you want to talk about, even on the topic itself. My advice would be always to go and look at someone else's podcast, have a listen in, see what they're talking about, think about the structure they're using, because it's a great way to keep yourself informed of what a podcast is, but also then mixing it up and adding your own flavour to help develop your own podcast too. I always like to use this slide. Think of your project like a story. Now, obviously, this is going to change depending on what you're doing for your podcast, but I always think it's a great thing that it just helps keep your audience engaged with what you're talking about. So, for example, I like to start with the idea or the brief, talk about what you were going to start with. This is sort of like your seed, what led you into creating and working on, and maybe some of your interests at the start of the project. Then we can think about the early stages. What did you start out doing? What research did you conduct? Who did you talk to in the industry perhaps? And then think about how that made you feel and sort of the steps that led you to making an informed decision from there. Then what did you take away from those experiences? How did your project go? What did you get up to? What would be expanded or influenced by your experience? And then finally talk about the end result and what you took away from it, okay? This is always a good thing that I like to talk about, especially when you're making PowerPoints, videos, and it works really good in podcasting too. You're drawing that user's attention in yet again. Now, this is where everyone, I think, gets a little bit scared when they come to thinking about creating something. What about the cost? Well, podcasting is as cheap or as expensive as you want it to be, okay? You can create a podcast just simply with your mobile phone. Now, the quality of the audio might not sound good. Same if you're on a cheap laptop, but you are creating something at the end of the day. Your ideas are more important than what you're recording with. Obviously, if you're working for more professional sort of podcasts and things like that, you'll have more expenses, so you can buy more equipment and have it sound better. But for those who are even just starting out, it's the idea that's important. So you can just do it all on your phone. I will recommend some pieces to put together. It will help in the long run, and it will make a more professional sounding podcast. It'll also make it sound a little bit clearer as well. First things first, very basic, have a cheap pair of headphones. Now, these can be earbuds, these can be over-the-ear headphones. You just want something that you can use to help you listen back to your audio, okay? So this can be you listening back for any issues, for any mistakes. It can even just be while you're talking, you're listening back to make sure everything's working. It's quite important. So when you're even just editing something, having headphones in, it stops a lot of other noise pollution happening. Maybe you live on a main road, you've got cars driving past. Popping on a pair of headphones just makes it so you can only listen to that podcast and get rid of the bits that you don't want. Secondly, a microphone. Obviously, you'll need this to record. Your phone will have one built in. A lot of laptops will have one built in as well. But, a decent microphone, if you have one, goes a long way of improving the audio quality. Typically, laptop microphones do make you sound a little bit more muffled. So if you are looking at this from a hobby or a professional place, maybe invest into a USB mic or take it a next step up and go for a XLR mic. But for those who are just doing for an assignment, you can just use your laptop, you can just use your phone. You don't need anything else. And lastly, I would recommend to have a device to edit on. Now, typically this is going to be a laptop or a PC. Again, you can use your phone. I do have an example later in this video, but I would recommend one of these laptops or PCs just because it's a lot easier to control things with using a mouse and keyboard, okay? It also lets you save it into a space where you know and you're able to see that a lot easier than you would on a mobile device. Now, there are a few additional things you can get depending on what you're planning to do with your podcast, but primarily that's for more of a professional point of view. So that can be things like audio mixers, XLR mics, microphone stands, pop filters. But again, those are out the scope of today's video. To sum up this, you only need your phone to make a podcast or a laptop. You don't need all of this extra stuff. So before we get to recording, there's a few things I like to mention here. First of all, this is extremely important for recording anything video or audio related, is you need to find a nice and quiet spot to record in. We don't want to hear your neighbors, we don't want to hear other people talking, we don't want to hear your cat meowing, for example. Try and find a space that's nice and quiet just so you can go in there and record, okay? Now, there's lots of different things people will tell you who might specialize in audio. You know, if you have an empty room, you're going to get a lot of echoes in there. Don't worry if you're just starting out for your assignment. Just try and find a place where you can just sit and have some alone time to record the podcast without any interruptions. Try and listen out for things like background sounds. Like I mentioned, a pet can be quite loud. Even if you live on a main road, if you have a lorry come past, you know, it will pick up. We're still trying to create something, you know, tailored for your assignment, but we want it to sound a bit more professional than having a cat meow in the background, for example, okay? So try and find that quiet spot. And also check for low humming sounds as well, okay? Sometimes you might have a fan on, your ears might just tune it out because you're used to it, but when you're listening back, you'll realize the fan is louder than you think. So just have a listen, think about what you can hear, try and find that nice and quiet environment to record in. Here's a little silly tip, but I always like to remind people, is remember to breathe, okay? Take your time. It's not a race. If you've made a mistake, taking your time, giving yourself a little bit of a breather, just helps you like reset. And when you come to edit it, you'll be thanking yourself because you'll be able to clearly see where that breath is, because you'll see it visually, the sound dips, and we'll go over that in a minute. And it lets you then edit those bits out. But while you're recording, it also just gives you a chance just to catch up with yourself, check in, and just remember mistakes happen. You know, if something goes wrong, just take a second, take a deep breath, go again. We don't want you to sound rushed, you know, we don't want you to be racing through things, we don't want you to be tripping up over words and making mistakes. We understand you're human, just remember to breathe and go from there. If you do make a mistake, just take a second to reflect on it. Don't get frustrated. Just give yourself a break, come back to it and go again. The great things about podcasting is that we can just pause the recording. We can make a new recording. We can go in and edit bits again. So you don't have to record it all in one chunk. And last but not least, the most important thing I'll say in this little video today is make sure your phone notifications are turned off. The amount of times I've recorded one of these YouTube videos and you hear my phone go off with a notification in the background, it's super frustrating. And you probably won't notice until you go back in the recording and you've done a massive recording and you've talked about something and your phone keeps going off in the background. So make sure you put it on sleep just for the duration of making that podcast from there. So we're going to start with Adobe Podcast. This is currently a free podcasting tool developed by Adobe to help you very quickly create a podcast. It's something I'd recommend. It's relatively easy to use. To find it, head over to your browser of choice, type in Adobe Podcast, and it'll be one of the top results from here. Okay, you can see I've got it here. I'll press on it. It's got a nice little microphone, so we know it's on there. You might need to sign in. Now, some student accounts will have access to Adobe. If you don't, you'll have to create an account. But from here, it's relatively easy to get started. First of all, there's lots of very easy and different tutorials you can access from this front page. But again, we're going to cover something that's relatively easy and straightforward to do. To start with, in the top right, head to My Projects. You'll see any projects you've done in the past. But simply to get started, press New Project. This here will load up, you give it a second, and straight away you're in the podcast studio. From here, it's really important that we have the right microphone set up. Now, unlike other applications you'll see in this video, it chooses whatever's the default on sort of your device. For me, if I can navigate to the bottom right, if I press onto my sound settings, it will open up this page here, and I can see my output settings as well as my inputs. Now, I have a microphone selected, so it's got to use that microphone. It's really important that you make sure this is selected before you record anything. Once you've done that, simply return back, and simply to get started, press the big red record button in the bottom. You might need to allow access to your microphone from the website, so we'll allow that. I'm going to allow access to my camera. It's completely up to you if you do this. I'd recommend doing it. I don't have a webcam connected, so it's not going to record me anyway. So, as you can see, my voice moves whenever I talk. We're not recording yet, so don't worry. There's a few options you can change. There is device settings here, so you can see different things that you can select, as well as the microphone it's going to be using. So you can see my microphone is defaulted there as well. To get started, let's just press start recording. The birds are chirping outside. It's a pleasant time. Spring is coming in at full force, and we love to see a little bit of sun where there used to be rain and cloud. As you saw there, to stop recording, I just pressed the stop recorded button there, right at the bottom, and that will do that straight away for me. You'll see that recording was added at the top, and to see that, we simply head over to edit. From here, it's got to take a little bit of time to process what we've said, because essentially what it's got to do is it's going to turn it into sort of captions for me to look at as well. So we've got to give that just a second here. You can see there we are. The birds are chirping outside. It's a pleasant time. Everything I just said. To listen back to this, simply navigate down to the bottom again. Press play. The birds are chirping outside. It's a pleasant time. Spring is coming in at full force. And we love to see a little bit of sun. Now, if we wanted to delete something, all we do is select the bits of this transcript that we don't want. So maybe we get rid of this bit just because maybe I wasn't feeling it. I'll select that, delete that bit of the clip. You'll see all I did there was select it and it's been removed. Give that bit of a playback. The birds are chirping outside. It's a pleasant time. Spring is coming in at full force. But maybe now it sounds a bit weird. I want to undo that. Just in the top left, you'll see there's an undo button and I can restore that back. Really easy. If I want to carry on recording, let's go back to the record section here. We're going to record something else. What we're going to talk about? We're going to talk about the flowers, I guess. Various flowers are appearing from the ground. Different forget-me-nots, bluebells, and everything else, along with the bees and the ladybirds, have returned. We'll stop that, head back to edit. Again, it's going to process all of that and we'll be able to see that on here once that's done. So there we go, it's transcribing that now. And voila, we can see that from here. Now, if we want to listen back just to the certain bit, just press your left click in, you'll see it highlights a word. Various flowers are appearing from the ground, different forget-me-not. There we go. Now, if you do want to change this transcript for whatever reason, come in here, you can press correct transcript. It will let you change the word by word. The only issue with this system is you do kind of need to record it in the section that you want it to be finalized in. As you can see here, I can't come in and move these text pieces around. So again, you need to have that planned out. I wouldn't start at the end or start halfway through. You need to have it done where it's step by step. Here's the introduction. Okay, that's all recorded. Let's move on to the next step now. You can add different things in. So here we go. We can add different videos and audio from other places. We can use group recordings. So we have multiple people that we've recorded. We can have placeholders as well of what we want to place in between places. But again, we can't come in and move these parts around. We can come in and use the enhance feature. So Sometimes this will work, sometimes it won't. This changes depending on what you've got placed in already. But maybe you've got a lot of background noise. The aim is it will try and cut down on that. So you just give that a flick and we can change. I want more speech, less background, and it will do it automatically for you. I'm going to leave that off because mine sounds fine, but maybe you want to change yours around. Once you're happy with that, head over to export. From here, make sure you choose audio, MP3, and press download final audio, and that will download for you. It's a very easy and simple application with one, I would say, quite big fault, but it's easy. There's lots of tutorials to help you get started as well, so be sure to check that out too. So the next app we're going to look at is Riverside Podcast. Now this is a podcast recommended by Spotify just to help you create different things. It is a premium platform, but you do get 2 hours of podcasting content that you can publish, so we'll take advantage of that. You will need to sign up with a personal account, but first, to access the website, head to Riverside Podcast on the browser you're using, scroll down to riverside.com. This is what it looks like for me. It might look different over time for other users, but simply head over to the top right. You'll see there's start for free. This will ask you to sign up with an account. I have one, so I'll press login and it will take me to my user dashboard. From here, it's relatively easy to get started. First of all, go to projects on the left. We'll select this. We'll give it a second to load. There's a nice welcome video here. It will direct you to some tutorials, so it is worthwhile checking out. But to get started straight away, we're going to press new. We'll give that a second just to launch. From here, it will ask us to input a title. I recommend we do this. I'm going to call mine Testing 101. And once that's done, simply left click out of that box and we can get started with the creating process. I recommend that we press record, and this will launch us into a little studio to go and record our little bits in. So we'll give that just a second from here. Now, you've got some options. Make sure that your webcam is the correct one, your microphone. If you're using an assignment that is just asking for audio, feel free to turn your webcam off. I'm going to do that because I don't have a webcam. Just make sure your microphone is the correct microphone you are supposed to be using. Then join Studio, so we'll give that a quick second. And from here we can get started. It's very similar to what Microsoft Teams is like. So we have a mute button down here. We can also hover over and it will let us select our devices. Same for the webcam, same with the speakers. The rest of the features are if we're in a live audience, which we're not. It's just you on your own, which is fine. To get started with the recording, all you do is simply press the big red record button. It will give you a nice countdown and then you get started. You've gone too far this time, Joseph, I said, staring at him. Flat on his back, under what was left of the apple tree, which had crashed through the shed. When you're done, simply hit that record button again. It will stop. You get a nice pop-up saying that it has uploaded and that you can return back to that project. We're going to do that now. So you can either press go to project, or if it doesn't pop up, simply press the back arrow at the top left. That will pop up on here. And then it's just a case of heading to the edit tab once that's loaded. So you can see mine's still loading. We'll head to the edit tab. We will edit from scratch and we'll give that a second to load up. How do you want to start? You can record straight away from here, but we have just recorded something. So we'll press my files, we'll press recordings, and from here you can see a recording pops up and we can insert that in from here. Now what we get is a nice transcript. We also get a visual little thing we can look at with our audio. So you can see the transcript's loaded straight away. We've got to wait a little bit longer to get the visuals for the audio. So there we go. Now if we listen back to it, we just move this playhead, or we can just press the play button. You've gone too far this time, Joseph, I said, staring at him. Flat. And we might be happy with this. Now I can see here that I'm not talking, it's in a different colour, and the wave is quite low, meaning there's not much that is picked up. So to remove this, I simply hold left click and drag. You'll see a purple box pops up. And then we just press this delete key here and it will remove it straight away for us. Very easy to do. Now, you might be thinking, cool, how do I add the next piece of audio? You can just press add and then press record and record from there. So we'll do that now. We're going to press English because that's the transcript language. It will take us back into that studio to make sure all of our settings are correct again. So we'll just give that a second to load up. I'm ringing an ambulance, I added, while wondering if they'd sent the men in white coats for the two of us. No, Joseph squeaked. I'm okay, just help me up. The roof might cave in. Again, press the stop button. That will then finish. We can go back to the editing, so we'll press continue editing from here. You'll see that's processing down here. It will expand the transcript once that's been added, and then we'll be able to see this straight away. Now, unlike other editing platforms, it does keep any sort of recordings you've made, so you can undo if you don't want to delete this. However, if you have selected and deleted, it will just skip over the bits you've deleted. So let's say you don't want this bit, we can delete this and it will skip over that bit when you're playing it back. So it's always worthwhile just to be aware of that. You can see my audio clips pieced in, so we'll give that a second to load. We'll listen back to that, so you'll see the skip here, which had crashed through the shed. I'm ringing an ambulance, I added, while wondering if they'd sent the men in white coats for the two of us. No, Joseph squeaked. I'm okay, just help me up. The roof might cave in. Perfect, that's exactly what we want. Now you go along, you add your different sections the exact same way, but what do you do when you're done and you're ready to submit to Blackboard? Well, head over to the top right, you'll see here we have our share button, which we'll select. Now, read your assignment brief, make sure you've got the right thing selected. Pretty much it's going to be audio if you're uploading a podcast, so select audio. Audio quality, we want to select MP3, that's pretty typical for what your submission's going to ask you for. And export audio only. This is going to save it, so export your file, you can find the dashboard or create more. We'll go to exports, and you'll see it pops up on here. All you need to do is press download. That will then save to your downloads folder. So let's take a look at Audacity. Audacity is a free audio-based application. You can record, you can use it to create music and things like that. We've got to keep it very simple. Just do podcasting today and just cover some of the basics. So, you can see I've launched Audacity here. There's quite a few buttons. First things first, what you want to do every time you launch the app is to see what audio setup you have. What we mean by this is what microphone's connected, what headset's been connected. And you can do that by navigating over to the audio setup where my mouse cursor is. Press the drop down. The most important one on this list is selecting the recording device and making sure you've got the appropriate microphone selected. You can see the one I'm using. This is the one I'm recording on now. You might have different options there. So you might have an internal microphone, or maybe you have AirPods connected to your device. Just make sure that's selected from there. Playback device is the other option you need to check. This is just so when you're listening back to things, you've got it into the right headset or earphones or speakers, whatever you're using. You can see I've got quite a few options. My advice will be head over, record something, give it a listen back to it, see how it sounds. You can always delete it. It just gives you the best start to whatever you're planning to make. Once you've done that, there's another thing we're going to do. We'll head over here. Now this bar here where my mouse is, this is your recording level. This is how loud it's going to come back as. Now we can always adjust it. However, if it's too loud or maybe too quiet, it becomes increasingly more difficult to adjust that volume. So we want to make sure we've got it set right before we do anything else. Now yours might be moving. If you talk, you might see this bar where my mouse is moving. If not, give it a right click, enable silent monitoring, and you can see as I'm talking this green bar moves with the volume, so you can see how loud it is. You want to be aiming for your volume when you talk to be between minus 24 to about minus 12. I would try and keep it between that range. Ideally you want to be about minus 18, but as you can see with my voice, I might fluctuate. I can say some words a little bit quieter, some words a bit louder, and that will bump up and down depending on that. I've given myself enough wiggle room to change that. Even if it's around 30, I can bump this up afterwards, but like I said, we want to be aiming for that nice between minus 24 and that minus 12 slot here. Now, if you're talking and it's either too low or too high, you'll see here it's a little bit hard to see. There's a little circle where my mouse is. You can just adjust that and that will move the microphone setting as well. To the right is louder, to the left is quieter, so adjust it, see how you get on. You can't copy my exact settings just because I'm going to be in a completely different environment. I have a different type of microphone. All of these things play a factor. So listen, have a look, see what the number's at, listen back to it and see how you're getting on. If it's about the level I'm at now, you're doing fine. I'm going to disable silent monitoring for now because when I hit record, you'll see it will turn on anyway, so I can monitor it as I'm talking. And to do that, you'll see on the left hand side, we have the big red record button here. So I'm going to record some audio here so we can get started straight away. The ginger cat sat on the mat and tried to scratch its back. Unfortunately, it could not reach, so it gave up and went for a treat instead. As you saw there, once you're finished recording, all you do is simply hit the stop button to the left of the record button, and you get something that we call a wave format. So we're able to see when we're talking and things like that. It might look a bit complicated now, but I assure you, we'll get through it together. So now we've done that, we can listen back simply by moving our mouse cursor and giving it a left click within this audio track here. So you see this bar props up when I press left. If I bring it all the way to the end, I can just listen back to that. The ginger cat sat on the mat and tried to scratch its back. And as you can see straight away, we've listened back to that audio file from there. All you need to do is press the little triangle, the ginger cat, or you can press spacebar, the ginger cat, and it will play back. Now, one thing to note there, and I did make the mistake, if I've placed my mouse cursor and I press this button, it will just keep playing. So you need to make sure you hit that pause button as well. So that's P, or you can just press the button up here. If you're looking to record even more of this, so maybe you've recorded the first section of your podcast and you need to take a break, make sure you hit that stop button, move your playhead somewhere else and hit that record button again. So I'll go again now. Hello, I'm just recording a very quick snippet so I can show the re-record feature on here. Hit that little square again, it will stop recording, and we've created something from there. It's very easy. Now, you might be thinking that's cool, but what if I've made a mistake? What if my audio is too long? It's very easy to rectify. As you can see here, we'll give this a little playback. We'll give this a little playback when I'm not messing up. Here we go. We'll give this a little playback so we can find sort of an issue space. So if we listen back to this now, go again now, you can see that I was talking over when I was hitting that record. To get rid of this, it's really easy. First of all, head to sort of the middle of the screen. You'll see we have this selection tool where my mouse cursor is. It's F1 for keyboard users, but you can select this icon here. And all we're doing is we're going to give it a nice left click on the areas we want to move. And you'll see if we hold left click and move our mouse, it gives us this blue selection box. And this blue selection box just allows us to select that audio clip, then that area of audio clip. To remove that, simply press the delete key. So I've got a delete key on my keyboard. You'll see it's removed. If I play this back now, so let me just clear this loop here. Hello, I'm just recording a very... You'll see it's got rid of it. Let me play it back again. Hello, I'm just recording a very... Easy peasy, right? So we just simply select the selection and press delete. It's the same for this bit here. So we've got a bit of dead air either side. So I'll play from here. We don't want that dead air. We want something that's quite snappy between it. So we're going to hold left click, drag all of that selection, press the delete key. You'll see it snaps together. We'll do the same this side as well. Delete, done. And we might have taken a gap here. Sometimes gap sounds good, so don't feel like you have to remove them all. But let's have a listen. It's back. Unfortunately, let's remove this gap here just to see what it will sound like. It's back. Unfortunately, maybe it's a little bit too squashed now. So let's undo this. Simply press Control and Z at the same time, and that will undo that. If you don't have Control and Z, you can head over to Edit and press Undo, Delete, and that will just remove it from there as well. If you do end up with a big gap like this, obviously you can do what we've just done. We can select an area and press Delete, or you can select the audio file. You'll see a little hand icon pops up near the name. Press and hold left click and you'll see that drags, and it has sort of a magnetizing effect where it will lock those clips together. We'll just trim off the end as well, and there we go. Relatively easy to do. Now you can record as much or as little as you want. Keep going with your podcast, trim those bits down, piece them together. You might have part of your assignment that says you need to add some audio in as well, or maybe you need to record something else. There's lots of different ways to do this. If you're using sort of an AI voice, you can record it through a system like OBS. If you've never used OBS before, I'll leave a video. And then it's just a case of dragging that file in to the workspace. And to do that, you'll simply go to File, and then you go to Import, select Audio, and drag and drop that file on from here. Now what you might end up having is multiple audio tracks, which is fine, but just remember that they all play layered. And what I mean by this is if we move this audio onto a separate track, so let me add a separate track here. If I move this audio file down to here now, both of these will play at the same time, okay? So they're both on top of each other. We might not want that. So if let me just clear this loop again. Hello, I'm just recording a very quick snippet and tried to scratch. That's not very helpful for us. So make sure that if you are using multiple audio tracks, that you do separate these out. So it's kind of, you've got maybe some dead space here, but as you can see when we play this back. Hello, I'm just recording a very, it doesn't overloop them. Why you might want to do this? Well, if you've got two or more people that are talking, you can give them all their own audio track. So maybe one person's talking a little bit loudly, maybe someone's talking a little bit softer. You can adjust just their files without having to constantly go back and change different stuff as well, okay? Now that's pretty much all you'll need to do. Sometimes you might need to turn their audio up, okay? The easiest way to do this, you'll see just on the left hand side, is depending on the track, this is a good reason to split them up, is we can just turn them up simply by just adjusting this volume knob here. And again, we're aiming between that 18 to about -12, -6 range. So make sure that when you're listening back to it, you're only adjusting it a very tiny amount, okay? That's very basic how to audition. Now there's a lot more this app can do, and I'll leave a very detailed guide in the description. However, for podcasting for your assignment, this is pretty much all you'll need to do. The other thing you'll need to do is exporting it to put it onto Blackboard. By export, we just mean saving. Actually, saving in general is a really good idea. To save your WordPress file, save project, and save it to a location, okay? To export, which is to put it onto Blackboard, again, file, head down to export audio. You'll see where would you like to export to. We're going to export to the computer. Here we get some different options. First of all, make sure you name it appropriately. I'm just going to call mine Test 101. It's not an appropriate name for your assignment, but just for today, I'm allowed to do this, okay? Then choose the folder where you want this save in. I particularly don't like having that place where it's placing, so I can choose wherever I want to place this to from here. So I'm going to place it in my downloads folder just so it's easy for me to access. And the format, this is really important. Make sure it's set to MP3. A lot of your assignments, if you're doing podcasts or audio submissions, will ask for an MP3 file. So make sure you've got that drop down selected. From here, I'd recommend stereo, leaving the sample size and the bitrate all the same. You don't need to change anything, okay? Once that's done, export the entire project, press export, that will save, and you upload onto Blackboard from there. So the next app we're going to look at is actually a phone app. This is going to depend on the device you're using. I'm on an iPhone, so I'm going to use GarageBand, which is a music application. If you're on a different device than Apple, be sure to have a look and see what other different things you can access. There will be very similar apps and they will work in a similar way as well. However, this is what I'm using just because I'm on that Apple device. Once you've downloaded GarageBand, you can sign in, and from here we're going to create a project. Simply by pressing the plus, it will open up this little menu here with different instruments you can select. We want to find the audio recorder because that's what we're going to do, so we'll press on voice, it will load up from here. Now, before we do anything, there's a few things to note. It will use by default whatever audio device is connected. I have nothing connected to my phone at the moment, so it's just got to use the onboard microphone and onboard speakers. That's fine. If you connect to AirPods, it will use the AirPods or earphones, whatever else you're using as a device instead. Before we hit record, we've got to turn the little clock off, so the little triangle, and we can also press on this little filter icon in the top right, and we're going to select clean, so the audio is clean as it can be. From here, we give it a press on the big red circle, just like in every other application, and it gives us a nice countdown. Hello, my name is Rowan, and today we're going to be recording this podcast. I'm using GarageBand just as a basis to record something relatively easy. We'll press on the square to finish that, and once you've done the recording, at the top you'll see there are some lines. We have a square, bigger square and a little square. We're going to press the lines and that will open up into our timeline from here. And we can give this a listen back by pressing the little triangle next to the record button. Hello, my name is Rowan, and today we're going to be recording this podcast. As you can see, that recorded straight away, which is awesome. That's what we want. And just like any other application that we've shown so far, if you do have a bit of dead air, you can see the waveform. All we need to do is just trim the ends off. So we just press and hold and move our finger, and that will cut those times off. You can see that the clip now, we have a little bit of dead space at the start, so we'll press on the clip and drag that across to the start, and that has updated straight away from here. So hello, my name is Rowan, and today we're going to be recording this podcast. Awesome. Now let's say you want to cut sort of in the middle of the clip here. You can press on, and wherever you have your little pin head, it will split that clip for you then to cut out. So maybe, let's say I've made a mistake here. I'll press on the clip, you'll see it gives me some options. We'll press split, we'll press the little scissors, and it will split that section from here. So it acts like a scissor, it's got to try and pull down. And as you can see, it split that clip for me there. Then I can just drag and remove the bit I'm looking to remove, press and drag that clip back, and that's automatically moved that clip for me there as well. Now let's say I wanted to record a bit more. We can move our playhead just along. We'll press the microphone again, and we're back to this page again, and we just record the next bit. As you can see, it's relatively straightforward. However, there can be some things that might trigger as you play along. So play around with it, see how it works. If that little metronome keeps going off, just turn it off again. You don't need that on. And again, we're going to return back to our timeline, and from here we can just listen back to that. As you can see, now that metronome was on straight away, and I'm not a fan of that. So make sure you give yourself some dead air. So give yourself maybe like 5 seconds before you actually start talking. And we can just trim that down again. Select the ends, trim that down, move that clip across. And it's relatively straightforward. We go from there. And that's how you build it out. You'll keep recording bits, adding that, trimming them. If you need to cut something out from the middle, move your little playhead, select the clip, press and hold, and then go to split. And split it from there. There is an undo button in the right, so we can undo something if we're not a fan of the change. And there we go. Now, how do you export this? Well, that is a very good question. If you're wanting to export, first you press into My Songs, it will save, and you'll see the menu of your different projects you might have worked on previously. And I've got some that date back here, so we'll ignore those, but you'll see the one we've just worked on. You can press and hold, and you can press download. I would recommend, if you're using this and uploading it to Blackboard, you press share, and then you save that to your OneDrive, download that onto your computer, and then upload to Blackboard. You can see some of our previous guides on how to do that in case you're not sure how to upload from OneDrive.